Welcome to the second part of 12 Rules for Life. If you haven't seen the first part, check it out first. If you like the content, I would appreciate a subscription and a like, and now I hope you enjoy the second part. Do you know the story of the monkey who got his hand stuck in the cookie jar? The little rascal wanted to steal the last cookie, but the opening was only big enough to fit his empty hand. Unfortunately, it was too small to get his hand and the cookie out. So the monkey was stuck for as long as he stubbornly held on to his loot. The lesson of this story is clear. Greed has its price. The monkey gets caught because he is unwilling to give up the cookie. This anecdote often mirrors our human behavior. How many of us give in to cravings that hurt us every day? And how many of us are afraid to make sacrifices that could improve our lives? This seems to be one of the side effects of a pessimistic worldview. It makes it easy to justify our own weak will. The logic behind this is, if life is so terrible, we should at least be allowed to sweeten it. And besides, how bad can something be that makes you happy? Self-destructive habits such as binge eating, drinking, drug use, and infidelity follow this way of thinking. The opposite is the idea of delaying gratification, forgoing immediate gratification in order to positively influence the future. This attitude dates back to the time when our ancestors saved scarce resources for the winter. A similar motif can even be found in the Bible. The expulsion of Adam and Eve from paradise justifies the hard and deprived life on earth. But tolerating this hardship is the sacrifice we make for the comforts of the hereafter. This brings us to the seventh rule, the requirement to set aside immediate gratification for higher goals. While we all sacrifice our leisure time every day for work in order to enjoy vacations and retirement later, there is more at stake here than just personal gain. Sacrifices large and small can be made for the greater good and for personal growth, in the spirit of strive for what is meaningful, not what seems advantageous at the moment. The inspiring metaphor of the lotus flower provides a model. Its life begins at the dark bottom of a lake, where it grows inch by inch to the surface before finally blooming in the sun. In other words, set long-term and meaningful goals, keep them in mind, and be willing to make some sacrifices. The reward will be all the greater and more beautiful when you actually achieve those goals one day. Friedrich Nietzsche believed that a man's spiritual greatness could be measured by how much unpleasant truth he could bear. Truth, however, is a delicate thing. Although it is considered precious in most cultures, we all tend to lie to ourselves all the time. We often deceive ourselves, especially when we think we are trying to achieve a certain goal. The Austrian psychologist Alfred Adler spoke of actions and statements we make to achieve half-baked goals. Suppose you dream of retiring to the south, a small house by the sea in a Spanish fishing village with an inexhaustible supply of paella. This supposed life goal seems so dreamy that you keep telling yourself that you can achieve it, even though it seems increasingly unlikely in the face of real developments. Even if you developed allergies to UV radiation, sand, and alcohol, you would continue to lie to yourself. You insist on sticking to your perfect plan even though you haven't taken a single step toward realizing your dream. This form of self-deception often goes hand in hand with the belief that we know everything we need to know. This delusion is foolish because it stifles our natural desire to learn and grow. Worst of all, we can become trapped in a lifelong lie, stubbornly closing our eyes to the truth. In John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost, published in 1667, Satan appears as a profound character, but his pride and vanity ultimately lead to rebellion against God's wisdom, banishment from heaven, and a fall into hell. This brings us to the eighth rule. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. This does not mean that you should not set ambitious goals, but choose realistic goals and keep a clear view of what is really happening in your life. Your view of the world will constantly change, so stay flexible and adjust your dreams and goals to your new values. Be honest and courageous. If you're constantly feeling down and worthless, it's time to question your own stories. We have come to realize how dangerous it is to think we know everything. Socrates, the preeminent philosopher of ancient Greece, had the opposite credo. I know that I do not know. This is one of the reasons why, thousands of years after his death, Socrates is still considered one of the wisest men in history. He was always willing to learn and reconsider his opinions. This openness is critical not only for conversations, but also for our own thinking. Ideally, reflection is an honest dialogue. In an inner dialogue, one examines both sides of an argument, which is not always easy because one must objectively present both positions in order to make a mature decision. This is the basic purpose of human conversation. The exchange makes it easier to understand the different facets of an issue. Children do this intuitively. Imagine a little girl suggesting that she climb on the roof of a house. A playmate points out how dangerous that might be. The dialogue opens up a new perspective for the girl. Climbing may be fun, but it also carries the risk of serious injury. However, conversations often don't go so well. One or both parties often refuse to listen, because discussions are mistakenly seen as a competition to win. Instead of really listening, we plan our response to confirm our preconceived notions. Discussions are not battles. They are opportunities to learn and grow. A simple tip for anyone who wants to improve: listen carefully to what the other person is saying and then summarize their argument out loud. This will show if you have really understood the point, consolidate the content in your memory, and reduce the risk of one of you twisting words to gain a rhetorical advantage. So the 9th rule is, assume the other person knows something you don't. The truth hurts sometimes. No one likes to change their beliefs, but that is the price you pay for the gift of learning and growing. Life often seems complex and challenging, and we humans tend to focus our attention on what has immediate advantages or disadvantages for us. Imagine taking a walk and spotting an apple on the ground. At that moment, you probably don't automatically think about the tree, its roots, or the soil that produced the apple. Our minds tend to simplify things to make the world around us more manageable. But life occasionally has moments that shake up our usual perspective and confront us with chaos. This is why the 10th rule is so important. Be precise in your expression. Let's take the example of the word car. In general, it stands for a motorized vehicle that transports us from point A to point B. But if your car suddenly breaks down on the way, the situation becomes more complex. Do you know exactly how the complicated mechanics of a car work? Could you repair it yourself? In complex situations, clear and concise explanations are essential to restore order and understanding. This principle can be applied to many areas of life. Suppose you feel ill or in pain. There are many possible causes. At such times, it becomes clear how important it is to describe your symptoms accurately in order to get the best possible help. In summary, the 10th rule is, be precise in your language. This also applies to interpersonal relationships. If something about your partner is bothering you, or you would like more support, honest and precise communication is the key to finding solutions together and avoiding misunderstandings. George Orwell ventured a provocative thesis in his 1937 collection, The Road to Wigan Pier. He argued that socialists in England came to a common political stance, not primarily out of solidarity with impoverished miners, but rather out of a deep hatred of the rich and powerful. Almost a century later, a similar resentment seems to be shaping society again, this time in the form of a rebellion against the male-dominated structures of patriarchy. This current development has been significantly influenced by the ideas of the Frankfurt School around Max Horkheimer, especially its critical theory. Proponents of this theory argued that education and intellectualism should aim to bring about social change. The focus was less on empowering women and more on destroying oppressive structures in society, particularly male domination. Similar ideas can be found today in many humanities discourses around the world, which propagated the path to social and political change through the abolition of the prevailing macho culture. Jordan Peterson, a critical thinker and psychologist, believes that this approach is too destructive. In his view, it seeks to destroy rather than repair or create. Peterson warns of the potentially dangerous effects of this negative energy, which could manifest itself in a general hatred of male behavior. A broader issue that Peterson raises is how society deals with the natural aggression that is more common in men. He argues that men have used their natural aggression not only for negative behavior, but also for good, such as healthy competition, exploration of dangerous areas, and progress. The central message of the 11th rule is not to directly condemn all aggressive men, but to find ways in which natural energies such as aggression can be constructively transformed into positive energy. Have you ever been responsible for someone in need of care? If so, you know the immense challenge that comes with that responsibility. Jordan Peterson's daughter became seriously ill with arthritis at the age of 6, resulting in chronic joint pain. Her treatment required regular injections and surgery. In such situations, it would be all too human to blame fate. But it is important to remember the natural duality of life. Without darkness, there is no light. The shining moments of life are only made meaningful by the darkness of suffering. Consider the comic book character Superman. When the first comic books were published, Superman was very popular. But the creators kept giving him more and more superpowers until he was practically invincible. And what is a superhero who always wins? Right, boring. Without the realistic risk of failure, Superman's victories were meaningless. The magic of comic books thrives on serious opponents and the hero's own weaknesses. It's the same in our lives. The good moments would lose their meaning if we didn't also have to go through difficult times. Precisely because the good moments are rare, it is important to consciously enjoy each one. Sharpen your eye for the small joys of everyday life to develop a new appreciation for the positive aspects of life. The more positive experiences you have, the better you will be able to get through the difficult times in between. After many years of suffering, Peterson's daughter found a new physical therapist who used alternative methods. The result was more mobility, normalcy, and less discomfort. While no one can guarantee that there will be no more challenges, until then, the family appreciates every good day. Take their attitude as an example. Be open to the good and positive things in life. Enjoy the good moments, no matter how brief. Seize every moment of lightness whenever it presents itself. The 12th and final rule is therefore apt. If you meet a cat, pet it. Of course, this assumes that you like cats, but in a figurative sense, it means constantly reminding yourself that there is no light without darkness and no order without chaos. Life may often be hard and arduous, but there are always moments of light in between. It is the perseverance and waiting that makes these peaceful moments so special, and I thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Please leave a like and subscribe, and see you next time.